Hey guys, welcome to the detailing show. Coming up in this episode, we have a double feature for Simplewax and also the first one manufacturer cleans of 2018. That one's going to be having a look at Illuminate Car Care.
Houston, Tranquility base here. The Eagle has landed.
Yes, sir. Reading you loud and clear. Clear. The clock has started.
The clock has started.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So, welcome to episode number 2 of series number 2 of the detailing show. So, as I mentioned, coming up in this episode, we've got a double feature for the good people at Simplewax. We're going to start by looking at their hybrid, and then we're going to wrap the show up having a look at Armour. In the middle, the sandwich that is this show is going to be filled with Illuminate Car Care and a one manufacturer cleans from them. And as has been requested quite a bit, I'm going to show you guys a magic trick. So stay tuned right to the end, and I'll even perform a little bit of card magic for you guys as well. Where else are you going to get that? Let's begin. So let's start the show with Simplewax Hybrid. This was their first release, their latest Armour, which is getting a hell of a lot of coverage and traction right now, being their latest. But let's have a look at their original. This one retails at £12 or £24, depending on whether or not you want to buy the 50 or 100ml version. Manufacturer's quoted durability on this one is around about 2 months from a couple of coats of this wax. But is it any good? Let's have a look. I'll see you on the other side of this. Hey guys, so Simplewax Hybrid. Now I've been stoked to try the Simplewax range for a little while. Having been on the automotive moonshine pages and really getting to know Nadeem of Simplewax and his passion behind creating and brewing these waxes. I was really stoked to sort of dive in, and he sent me this, and then Armour wasn't too far behind. But this I've had sat a little bit longer, so I thought I'd give it the first run out. Now, the first thing that strikes you when you open it is the smell. The scent does hit you. It's very much a foamy banana, that sort of synthetic banana smell. Really, really pleasant, really sweet. You know, if you like that sort of thing, very, very pleasant in use. The wax itself, very, very smooth, quite firm in the pot, but it does load up really, really easily. And you can feel it's quite an oily wax in its nature. It did spread a good long way, and, you know, there was no real resistance against the pad. So on application, really, really straightforward. Certainly no need to moisten the pad or anything like that. It glided really, really well without. Now, on the day of use, the temperature was dropping, and, you know, it was getting colder as we went, and it was quite late in the day by the time I got around to waxing. So it gave it a good patient cure. Now, I'd estimate maybe around about 3 or 4 degrees. Ended up giving it sort of 15, maybe 18 minutes just to be certain of the cure. And as you can see me there on screen, just testing a couple of cloths to see what it responds to. And with a shorter nap, a wo-wo towel in this case, it came off really, really straightforward. You know, no real hint of any grab or resistance, just a nice assured feel. So it's nice to see that it followed through in terms of application and removal. It was really both on the side of the user in ease of use. The finish that it left, it was a darkened finish. It did leave, you know, a nice, almost like oily gloss to the paintwork. So, you know, in terms of the finish, it wasn't like a deeper carnauba type of glow to it. It was a little bit more towards a glacier type of finish, but one that I really, really liked. It's the sort of wax that's going to appeal to a lot of people in the finish. And certainly because it's so easy to use, so straightforward to use, I think it's going to appeal to many. These are the finished shots. Again, bear in mind the light is low, the light is dark, so do forgive me that. But you can see it's clearly added a noticeable gloss to the paintwork. As I always say, and I probably should say this more, prep is very much important. So, you know, this car is kept well, and the paintwork is as close to immaculate as can be kept for a daily runner. The water behavior on it, very, very good. You know, going into this, I was expecting great things from Armour, so I kind of almost by connection, by proxy, expected great things from this, and I wasn't disappointed. It beaded really well, nice, round, tall beads. In terms of protection, the rating, you know, around about 2 months plus from a couple of coats, so you should get a good long run from this. But all in all, if it does need laying down again, it's really not a chore. So a nice wax all round. One that I was glad that I used. It'd be nice to have a 200ml jar, a glass pot. The 100s can just be a little bit, the 50s a little bit difficult to load. But all in all, yeah, lovely wax. back to me in the kitchen. So that's Hybrid, a really straightforward wax to use. Actually, you know, a great first release, I have to say, from Simplewax. Very user friendly. A gorgeous scent on that one if you do like that foamy banana smell. If you don't, I'm afraid you just add a look on this one. But yeah, all round on this one, a really nice wax to use. The finish on it, I would say, has some warmth to it, but it is still a little bit glassy and sealant-esque in its finish. But certainly in terms of using the product, it's really straightforward. And price-wise, £24 for 100ml. It's not going to break the bank. 12 at 50ml, just the same. In terms of price points, where that does contend and where it places itself, if you have a look at an industry standard of most waxes now being priced in the 200ml version, which puts this one around about £48 per 200ml comparative to the rest. So it actually outprices Armour, and in terms of durability, sits a little bit below it as well. So in terms of buying from the two of them, I'd have to say that's probably the only thing that I could draw from this one, is the pricing seemed a little bit out of structure compared to the others. Maybe they could release it in a 200ml glass pot and then bring the pricing a little bit more in line. But for what it does and what it claims to do, it's a little bit out of alignment in terms of price against its new brother. Waxes aren't brothers. Against its new stablemate. Whatever's the best, I don't know. But you know what I mean. But yeah, if you do want to check it out, links are below. Let's move on to the next one. So the first one manufacturer cleans of 2018. It's going to take a look at this brand here, which is Illuminate Car Care. Got quite a few products in this one, as you'd imagine with one manufacturer clean. So I'm going to let the screen do the work. It's going to go through some prices and a little bit of information about these. Illuminate sell directly. They've got their own web shop, so I'll put the links below. In terms of what they've sent to me, they are all the 250ml versions in this feature, in this part of the episode. But all of the price I'm going to run across the screen are going to be for the 500ml counterpart, since that seems to be the most popular purchase size. But if you are interested in what you see here, there is a bundle price which generally runs around about £35 for everything that you see on screen in the 250ml version. So if you do want to cut your teeth on it, I've actually made it quite affordable. But are they worth buying? Let's find out. Why don't we have a look? So Illuminate Car Care then. A little bit of a relatively complete set of products for me to try with them. And these are just the starter shots, so you can see the mess we were contending with. And this is really the first clean for me with this car after winter. So my dad's been doing his own maintenance washes. He's been sort of taking care of his own stuff on this one. But, you know, for me, it had a lot of crud and a lot of stuff to take off. Illuminate Car Care, like many in this industry, trying to break into what is quite a saturated market. Now, first impressions, first things first, they've got a very flexible sizing option. So pretty much everything they do is available 250, 500ml and a litre. So it's good to see that they're trying to cater to all sorts and all types of budget and price point. And the presentation from the off was very good. And by that I mean the labels were professionally printed, a nice matte finish on those. It was compliant, it had all the legal on it. So, you know, it was good to see. And again, crowded market that these guys are getting into, but some guys are getting into this without, you know, all of those fundamentals being laid down. And it caused me concern with those sort of brands, and it's good to see this wasn't one of them. I started with prepping up wheels. So started with a strawberry shampoo. Smells really nice in the bottle. By the time you dilute it, you lose that somewhat, but the strawberry scent I quite liked in the bottle. If it could be ramped up, that'd be a nice improvement to be made. And it says it's an 800 to 1 dilution, just as a guide. So I tried it at that dilution ratio. Now, where I'm based, the water is relatively hard. So where I do tend to test these shampoos at the upper limits of what the manufacturers recommend, I did find that if I doubled it, I got a really thick, very slick shampoo, very sudsy as well, which I know a lot of guys like. The one downside with that is you're now at something which is rated around about 400 to 1 dilution ratio, which causes sort of an issue in terms of cost effectiveness against some very heavily concentrated and much longer diluting shampoos on the market. So again, as a small tweak for Illuminate, if they could ramp up the concentration on that, that would help massively. In absence of a wheel cleaner, I went in with their all-purpose cleaner. So I use this on the tyre faces as well as a wheel cleaner. I thought, hey, I'll give it a real tough test. Against the tyre walls, it didn't seem to shift a lot of brown out of the tyre, which you tend to see, particularly at the stronger ones. I feel because this one comes ready to use, as kind of a little bit to its disadvantage. Now, the upshot of ready to use is it's more user friendly for those guys that don't want to get into mixing ratios and getting it wrong. But from a manufacturer point of view, from the brand point of view, they have to go relatively middle of the road, relatively safe. They can't go for really strong dilution and cause anyone some problems. So for me on this one, it did a fair job, but it wasn't as strong as I would want, particularly on the tires. And maybe if they could offer, a concentrate or a richer version that can be diluted down, that would be a good improvement there. Once the wheels were clean, and stress this, once they've been clean, then I came in with the iron remover. Not a wheel cleaner as such, and again, I've covered that off many times in previous videos. Fallout remover, not wheel cleaner, but yeah, came in, and it really did have a great go at all the build-up. And by and large, it dealt with quite a lot of the winter build-up. Now, what's not unusual is I expect multiple hits with pretty much any iron fallout remover. So this one, to be fair, it probably need a second hit, but it made a very good case for itself as a very competent iron fallout remover. The scent was as you would expect with these type of products, so a little bit of that eggy, sulfuric type of smell. But in terms of ability with this one, yeah, there was a big win with them on the iron fallout remover, and it did a fantastic job. It did a great job. Dwelled for a good long time. There was a bit of viscosity in the fluid, so it clinged well. It hung around well. So yeah, for me on this one, it's a tick against that one. And then it decided to rain, which was wonderful. And I wish I had a waterproof camera for my main shots, but I do not. So it's a little bit disjointed here. You see, I'm jumping straight into the snow foaming. Now, with the snow foam, I went for sort of the typical industry standard, 100 ml in the 1 litre bottle, and this is what it produced. I've got the foam lance turned up to a half a turn away from being fully open, so it left quite a rich, relatively thick foam, but it wasn't overly thick and less productive as such. It had quite a nice amount of run down the paint. Dwell time around about 8 to 10 minutes, and it actually shifted quite a good percentage of the dirt. Again, it's winter dirt that I'm cleaning, and snow foams tend to be more weighted towards summer in the majority of cases. But yeah, I really like this one. It was one of the standout products of the set, and the smell, the banana smell in that, it was very pungent, very in the air, and I really loved it. So that one, again, another big win for Illuminate. From there, washed and dried. Again, rain kind of took that away from us. And then on to a little bit of prep. So their ultimate polish, used it to sort of clean up the paint. And, as hand polishing goes, is something that some people need to do. In terms of prepping a panel, removing old waxes or sealants, it's good to use a mechanical abrasive, a polish to do that. And this did a great job of sort of just cleaning up. You could see on the applicator where this car does need its full decon coming out of winter. The polish did clean up the paint and took some of the embedded decontamination away as well. And it buffed off really easy. So again, for Illuminate, the ultimate polish, really liked. It left a real good slick, really squeaky clean base for their sealant to go onto. After all buffed on that side, it was on to the final part. So the protection on I say the final part, so I've got 2 more bits after this. The last stage protection. So it's a spray sealant. Hydro sealant is a spray sealant. And it tells you on the back very simply, spray onto the panel, mist onto the panel, and wipe with a microfiber. So I did just that. My kind of inclination as a lover of wax is a little bit away from spray sealants. On my team, one of my guys is the other way. He absolutely loves a spray sealant. So I want to make sure this gets over to him to have more of an input of someone that has more of a catalogue knowledge of such products. But for me, I'll tell you this. They're incredibly easy to use. I mean, this whole spray and wipe thing, you can see it flashes off just as you're buffing it. So I made sure the cloth stayed moving, so I wasn't going to suffer from any streaking or anything like that. But yeah, really straightforward, really easy to use. So for those that are looking for more, protection with minimal effort, you can see here it's, really is a wipe on and job done type of thing.
And I've sprayed onto the door with the water just to make that comparison of the protection being laid down. The door is, it's got nothing left. It's been through winter, and it's really sort of given up the ghost in terms of protection. And you can see just how straightforward that is. A slight boost in the gloss, nothing, sort of that's going to snooker a wax or outplay a wax or a sealant or a coating for me. But, you could see in terms of what is the primary purpose for all of these, laying down the protection, it did that perfectly. So, again, if that's your bag, if that's the thing you're after, it does the job. After that, couple of then finishing touches, so dressing the tyres. The tyre dressing comes in a gel form, so applied it to an applicator and wiped around. It spread really, really easy. It was a really straightforward product to use, so no issues with this. The downside with these types of products, depending on how heavy-handed you are, is you can have a tendency to sort of smother these things on and then suffer with sling. So with these, just go a little bit steady. A little bit on the applicator, buff it in, and then sort of load and just take your time with it. And as long as you do that, you'll get a good amount onto the tyre, and you won't have that issues with it slinging the second drive down the street. The finish on it, as it kind of cured down, it was a rich, glossy type of finish. I have to say it didn't last. That's one thing that I did notice just sort of as I was finishing up the other parts, and then sort of had a cup of tea, tried to warm up, came back out to the car, and it seemed to almost vanish into the tyre. And I did lay down 2 coats of that as well. So that's something which, again, didn't really work in Illuminate's favour on this particular test. Finally, onto the glass cleaner. With the glass cleaners, I've really struggled to find one of recent time that doesn't work. You're going to have variance in the flash off time and things like that. But this one, worked. It was relatively quick flashing. That's even in these sort of colder temperatures. Just as the temperature was coming down, it's maybe 5-6 degrees at this point of filming. But it cleaned well, didn't streak, didn't smear, flashed off at reasonable pace. So it worked. It does the job. Another tick for Illuminate there. Back to me in the kitchen for summary. Hope you've enjoyed this. Bye-bye.
So in summary for Illuminate Car Care, as is the way with this industry, with this business really, very rare for a brand to have the best of everything. As is always the way, my kit bag, and for a lot of you guys just the same, you'll have a real pick and mix, a real mix and match from a lot of different manufacturers, a lot of different brands for what suits you. And I have to say this one's no different. It's always the case when you do a one manufacturer cleans that there's going to be some hits, unfortunately there's going to be some misses, and there's going to be some right down the middle type of products. So for me on this, that's probably the best way I could put this, the best summary. The products that did stand out, the banana snow foam, the polish I thought was really very good as a pre-wax and as a prep to clean the paint up. The glass cleaner I would say is one of those products where it's difficult for those to go wrong, but quite down the line on that one. And the misses for me, I would say maybe the shampoo, although it was good, I think the dilution really doesn't hold its own compared to what is available on the market. And the tyre dressing. Now the footage that I showed you on the tyre dressing was freshly dressed and it carried a really nice glow. But it just seemed to evaporate off after a couple of hours when I revisited the car. It just seemed nowhere to be seen, and that was a couple of coats, so that was a little bit unfortunate on their side. It was a bit of a disappointment for me because the finish on it looked really nice, but the durability was measured in minutes and not weeks. Maybe it could be down to the tyre that it was applied on. I have dressings and I do know certain tyres react differently with certain types of dressings, but look, we have to be general with what we say here, and the tyres on my dad's car aren't particularly special in any particular way, and it just didn't leave a dressed finish on those for very long. So like I say, some hits, some misses, some products work, some don't. But if you do want to scoop them up, like I say, the prices are very affordable, even in standalone units. A lot of these products you can buy for £3 to £4 for a 250ml bottle. So if you do want to have a go, by all means, give them a crack and see what you think. Let me know. Tag me in any footage or photos that you put online, Facebook or Instagram, and I'd be glad to hear your opinion. Let's move on. And finally, we're going to wrap the show up with the final Simplewax wax. This one is Armour. Now, it's difficult to move on the groups, the forums, the pages without seeing talk of this one. And there is a lot of hype, and the hype train for me, I'm a little bit cynical towards it at this point. Granted, I can be involved in that hype train myself, and you know, I don't want to be hypocritical when I say that. Some products really do warrant the hype and some do not. Some of them just get caught up in a little bit of a buzz, a little bit of a frenzy. This one I was genuinely curious to find out, and I really went into it just with my blinkers on and see how it felt for me. But why don't you take a look and see what you think.
And on to the main event. So Simplewax Armour. This stuff has been everywhere, and you know, you look at some of these pictures, these beading, things like that. It certainly is earning its place in the market for 2018. So what are you met with? What do you find? It comes in two sizes, 200ml, 50ml. I've got the 50ml here. It is an incredibly smooth pour, white wax, very, very neat in terms of the finish, and contrasts that, or not even contrast, pair that with the white pot, the white label, makes a real classy statement, you know, real eye catcher on the shelf. Loading the applicator, this thing surprised me how soft it was, I do have to say. So when I came to load the applicator, I was surprised at how much I picked up. So the potential there as a user is to overload and then over apply it onto the paintwork. And truth be told, I did that at that first load. So, you know, you can see here just a dab it in and it will pick up some wax. No need for a damp applicator or anything like that. Very, very smooth and oily wax. So it spreads well, spreads far. In terms of then curing, now, on my experience here, because the day was getting cold and it was drawing on, I really had to play it by ear. I gave it a long time. I'm talking, you know, over 20 minutes, because the condensation was coming down, you know, particularly on the flat panels, the boot and the roof. And I was worried about that having an effect on the wax. So I really did make sure it cured well. Now, the thing I'm pleased to report when I did that is even on those areas, those first parts where I did have an overloaded applicator, it still came off incredibly easy. And, you know, this is in comparison to the hybrid even. The hybrid was very, very straightforward. This one was even more so. So a real refined product, a real sort of, you know, straightforward on and off wax with no dramas, you know, no problems, no ghosting on the panel. Wasn't seeing sort of any issues, any sort of wax holograms or anything like that. So real user friendly as waxes go. It was unscented. One thing to mention, 0 scent in this wax, which I did miss, but that's just because I like sticking my schnoz in these and having a good whiff, but not the end of the world. In terms of the finish, it had bags of gloss, very much the sort of wax where the finish looks like you've thickened the clear coat on it. So, you know, in terms of that overall finish, quite a glassy type of finish, quite a synthetic type of finish to it. But for me, I really do have a lot of love for that type of finish, and it brings out a lot of gloss in the paint. You know, it's almost very much that showroom shine type of thing. But yeah, love the gloss on it, love the finish as well. And then the one thing I was really desperate to get onto, as you'd imagine, is the water behavior. Now, I would say with this, and I'm going to show you the pictures at the end, I think these are some of the best beading shots, if not the best beading shots I've ever taken. And that's not to blow my own trumpet, which I do enjoy doing. But yeah, for me, this had a level of water behavior, level of water repellency that shouldn't really be attributed to a wax. You know, the water just did not want to hold. The sheeting on it was phenomenally quick. You know, if you sort of have a look at this part here, it almost looks sped up. So whatever magic has been woven down at Simplewax, you know, the study, the work, the graft that is going into producing something like this, it just shows through. Nothing's been rushed. Nothing's came to market with, you know, half a job in mind. This thing was just nailing all of the things that you would want from a wax. So for me, all in all, a real bargain of a wax, and, you know, nothing really for me to fault or criticize. Even the overloading thing doesn't cause you any removal issues. If anything, you're probably just going to waste a little bit more of the wax than you'd want to. But yeah, for me, a lot of love for this one. Real lot of love. Back to me in the kitchen for the summary. I'll just leave these last few beading shots to circle round. Any questions, ask away.
So there we are. For me, this one, I wrote a little bit of a piece up not long after I used it. It was a real sort of eye-opener for me as a wax goes. Very, very much ahead of what's in its price point. Maybe that comes down to the fact that they've sold it too cheaply. That could be the case. But for £35 for a 200ml, honestly, I think this thing is absolutely astonishing value. The finish on it isn't going to be for everyone. I'm going to say that up front. With waxes like these, where they are fully synthetic, they tend to lack some of the warmer glow of some of these natural waxes, and that's really the compromise, let's say. It's probably not the right word to use when looking at these types of waxes, but in terms of ease of use and you know, actually the experience of using it, it was a dream. It was a real breeze to lay this thing down, and cured nicely, and it cured in a good, reasonably patient time. It removed really, really well. The finish on it was very glassy and synthetic, which for me, I really love in a wax. And then the beading on this one, the water behavior. This thing, I've seen videos comparing it to, you know, some ceramics and things like that, and this thing is better in some cases. So whatever sort of unicorn jizz, whatever magic they've put into this over at Simplewax, it really did blow me away. And I can see the hype, I can see where it's all coming from. It ticks so many boxes at a price point which embarrasses so many other waxes on the market. I think it'd be rude not to. The links are below for that. If you want to check them out, do. And in terms of beading shots, if you can't get a good beading shot with this wax, then frankly, I think you need to give up. As always, tag me in any pictures, any photos, any videos that you put online, and I would love to see them. On all of the social medias, it's the same, Tranquility-based detailing, and you'll find me just there. Why don't I show you a magic trick, eh? So I'm going to tell you guys a story with my deck of cards, and this was a story that was told to me a long time ago by a good friend. And I've always, when I've recited this, I've always recited it verbatim. So that is to say how I was told the story, because to me the story's never really made much sense. But I'll tell it anyway, and it entertains people just the same. So the story the guy told me was when he was down the pub, he was watching these guys play brag. Now, if you've ever seen brag, it's one of those typical pub type of games. And this game went on for hours, and eventually the game broke. There were 4 guys playing, and when it broke, the loser, the guy who was, you know, right behind, he asked everyone, do you mind if we, just so I can recoup some of my losses, cut for high card? The other 3 agreed, and the guy went for it, and he cut his card, and he cut sort of nicely, neatly, and he turned his choice over. Now, what happened was everyone rolled their eyes. They all knew they'd been conned, they all knew they'd been had. To make it worse, the first guy, he didn't want anyone to cut and hit the same card, so he took his card out. I'll make sure that you guys can see that. Yes. So he took his card out and he left it on the table. He passed the deck on to guy number 2. So guy number 2 thought, you know, not a lot I can do in this case. We've agreed to play, so gentleman's agreement, and he cut his deck. Not in a typical way, he was more showy, as you can see. Now, there's no reason to cut a deck like that other than the fact that he could. And although he hit a jack, it was high, but it wasn't ace high. So he took a second go. It never made sense to me in the story where the guy took a second go. Maybe he was older, maybe he was bigger, maybe he was senior. I don't know. Maybe he just had harder mates than everyone else. But he had a second go, and on his second go, he hit his ace. So he now at this point smugly turned his card over and put it down just the same. He passed the deck on to the third guy, and the third guy, like the first guy, was quite neat, quite straightforward in his presentation. Turned the deck over to say he wanted the card on the bottom. Now, this was where I started to question the story myself, so don't get me wrong here, the whole story to me seemed a little bit hooky. And then they passed the deck to the 4th guy. And the 4th guy said, look, I need to hit an ace. There's only 1 ace left because you all have hit an ace. So the chances of me hitting it are slim. You know, in actual fact, it's like 1 in 49. So I'm going to go through the deck and find my card. And the guy said, no, you can't do that. That's just downright cheating. You need to cut like the rest of us. And the guy said, you know, bollocks to that, balls to that. I'm going through and finding my card. But as a compromise to this cheating thing, he said he would go through the deck with them all face down and he would select his card that way. And you see, as he went through the deck, his card was chosen. Now, as the story was told me, and like I said, I've always told this story verbatim, the story never made sense. Because like I said to the guy who's telling me, all of these guys have been playing brag for hours and there's 4 ace of spades in the deck and it just can't work for me. There's something amiss. And he said, listen, honest, swear to God, hands down, this is the way it went down. So I changed the trick. I made an adjustment to it so it made more sense, because the ace of spades confused people. But I liked the fourth guy. The fourth guy's candor just suited me more. So I decided to change it so that the fourth guy won. And the way I did that was by using bridge rules. Now, in bridge rules, the spades are the highest ranking deck. Now, or the highest ranking suit. Now, the spade outranks the club, the spade outranks the heart, and it outranks the diamond. That's my trick for this episode. If you like this and you want more tricks in more episodes, I mean, I don't even care. If you don't like it, I'm doing them anyway. But yeah, if you want to see more of this, let me know below and I'll be sure to put more of this in future episodes. Thank you very much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.